Hello, everybody. I'm Gwen Campbell-Mindes, and welcome to Gwen's Bookish Ramblings. And today we're back to nonfiction, and more to the point, we're on another book that is not a book for reading through. I'm sure you can't read the whole title because, as you can see, I was going to the now defunct Remainder chapters Indigo that I got so many books at because they sold things for cheap. Because look at that, this was $3.99, and its official retail price was $22 in Canada, $21.95 if you want to be, exact. The thing is that I thought of this book because recently I've developed a very bad habit of watching react channels, and somebody recently did what was in effect a reaction to a video of what were called the stupidest questions on the internet or on Yahoo question and answer or something like that. And somebody asked, what do you call a person from London? And the person writing this said, yes, what do you call them, those strange human beings who live in the London area? But the thing is, depending on who's asking it and why, that's not actually that stupid a question. Because if you haven't had a chance to run across the fact that a person from London, England is called a Londoner, then you don't know, because what you append to a place name to indicate that a person is from that place varies very widely and does not seem to have a particular consistency to it, because you can be Chinese, or you can be Torontonian, you can be a Vancouverite, you can be a Montrealer. And so when you're looking at these sorts of things, if you don't know that a person from London is a Londoner, you could look at it and say, well, are they a Londonian? A Londonite? Or are they called something else? Are they called something that doesn't even have London in it? People from Illinois are known as Hoosiers from time to time. People from the Netherlands are called Dutch. Whether or not they like it is, of course, another issue. But the point is that people are called things collectively as groups, as regional groups, that sometimes do not, in fact, directly connect with what that group is called. And labels for locals, what to call people from Abilene to Zimbabwe, it attempts to answer that question by saying, here's a list of them. Here's just a large list. And he brings it up that, over time I have learned that people are concerned about what others call them. Call a person from Indiana an Indianan or Indianian, and you will be told in no uncertain terms that the proper form of address is Hoosier. North Carolinian is acceptable, but not to those who prefer to be called Tar Heels. And when it comes to Utah, the folks there prefer Utah over Utah with an AHN over Utah, UTAAN, or Utahan. Phoenicians lived and live in antiquity and Arizona, while Colombians are from South America, not the District of Columbia, where Washingtonians reside. These Washingtonians are not to be mistaken for those Washingtonians who live around Puget Sound. And if this seems confusing, there is a modicum, but no more than a modicum of order to this in this realm. Some years ago, historian, onomastician, and novelist George R. Stewart Jr. outlined a set of principles for such names that boil down to this: if the name of the place ends in A or IA, an N should be added. If it ends in ON, add IAN. If it ends in I, add AN. If it ends in O, add AN. And if it ends in Y, change the Y to an I and add AN. If, however, a place ends in a sounded E, an is added. If it ends in olis, it becomes oliton. If it ends with a consonant or a silent E, either it or is added. These rules work for many names, like Philadelphian, Baltimorean, New Yorker, Tacoman, Floridian, Kansas Cityan, Annapolitan. But they also make San Franciscoan, not San Franciscan, and Arkansan, not Arkansawyer. Paris, France, or Texas yields either Pariser or worse, Parasite. Think about that. The people of Guam long ago decided that they wanted to be called Guamanians, which, if Stuart's rules had been followed, that should mean the island is called Guamania. So, this is just in the introduction, which is several pages long, in which he explains how it works, that it's a simple dictionary. Most entries are for the name of a place. These appear in boldface Roman type. Generally, this kind of entry is followed immediately by its demonym appearing in lightface italic type. Thus, one finds what a resident of Dallas is called by looking at the entry for that city, Dallas, Texas, Dallasite. Sometimes the demonym is followed by commentary on its origin, its alternatives, or other matters of interest. And that's where the interest of this book kicks in, because he talks about things like Baltimore, Maryland, which has literally 3 fairly sizable paragraphs on the fact that people from Baltimore are known as Baltimorean, though the EAN form shows up virtually without exception. There is evidence that the term Baltimorean with an IAN was used some in the 19th century. And it includes as well names, whether these are in some way derogatory or not, also very frequently appear in this, such as Banana Bender, nickname for a resident of Queensland, Australia. Banana Lander is also used, with Queensland being Banana Land. Writer and folklorist W.N. Scott, himself a Queenslander, discusses a group of Australian state nicknames that he says are mostly used in a derogatory sense, though not usually as intentional insults. And he goes on to reference 2 lines of a poem by Graham Jenkin. He talks about Bangkok, Thailand. No common term is in use, however, this important point is made by librarian Joanne Edwards in the introduction to Liverpudlian. While researching the material, we noted with interest that some regions have no identifying verbal concept of themselves as a unit of people residing together in a specified area. Thus, according to a governmental representative of Thailand, an inhabitant of Bangkok does not identify his place of residence as being that of a city within a country, say as a Londoner might, but rather as a countryman of Thailand, i.e. a Thai. And so on. This is a book that is practical if you're saying, what do I call a person from this random place that I've never heard of? Bay City, Texas is a Bay Cityan. And Bayonne, New Jersey, Bayonite, which is weird, but sure. And also, you have such interesting side notes and histories and things that get brought up simply because some names for people date back to something that genuinely does not relate to the name of the place. Bluenose, resident of Nova Scotia, Canada, an affectionate nickname. The province's most famous sailing ship was called the Bluenose, and the term was once applied generically to Nova Scotian vessels in nautical slang. Some of you may remember that from Anne of Green Gables, that Anne objects to being called a Bluenose. That's what it is. That's where it comes from. Boriqueño, nickname for a resident of Puerto Rico. The original name for Puerto Rico was Taino Boriquen, rendered by early Spanish explorers as Borinquen. Here the Arawak natives were the Borinquen, or in Spanish, the Borinqueños. The feminine form appears in the title of the Puerto Rican anthem, Laborin Kenya. The thing is, you look at these, and there's so much history that attaches to names, so much that you learn if you're reading this book. So, as with some of the other books I've recommended, what this is a book that you stick next to your computer, that you shove in a bag that you're taking with you, and what you do is, when you're waiting for something else, you crack it open somewhere and you read a bit of it. And you'll find interesting new things that you've never known before. Some of these things will be things that you did know before, but you don't know as much about them. I mean, I would never have known that Aggie is a student or graduate of Texas A&M University in College Station. Female students and alumni are sometimes called Maggies. Though Aggies is what A&M students call themselves, the term is used derogatorily in the context of a never-ending series of Aggie jokes that depict the A&M students as hopelessly inept. So, I can't say a lot about this book without reading, basically the whole book. I will also say that there are excerpts in it that are in pink sections, such as this one section on Texas, which is a lengthy couple of pages, well, 2 pages really, of text in a lengthy discussion about how the term Texan came about, because, of course, we call people from Texas Texans, but how they came to that is something that took some time to develop, that over the 1800s through the 20th century, people gradually narrowed down and landed on that term. And so there's a lengthy history there. So I recommend this book not just for everybody who has ever said, okay, what do I call somebody from Hibbing, Minnesota? What do I call someone from Hertfordshire, England? Or, why is it that people in Indiana call themselves or are called by others Hoosiers? And this book answers that. And sure, the internet exists. You can use it. I recommend that sort of thing. But the advantage to this, a book put out by Merriam-Webster, is that it's reliable. Somebody sat down and did real research. That they tried to be accurate. And while there will always be issues with the accuracy of compilations of this type, there's something to be said for knowing that someone attempted to be reliable over what happens on Wikipedia, which, as I always say, can periodically be changed if someone so desires to read that Thomas Jefferson was a statesman and a Jedi. Now, maybe he was a Jedi, but I don't believe that there's any historical evidence of that fact. So, having covered basically all of the important points of Paul Dixon's lovely book here, I wouldn't call it little because it's a trade paperback and not hugely sizable, but sizable enough. I think that I will call it a day, and I will see you all next week.